Hi, my name is Melissa Chan.
I'm Badiucao.
And we are the co-authors of a graphic novel called You Must Take Part in Revolution. Now, in case you don't know what a graphic novel is, it is like a comic book, but it's a long comic book. So ours is more than 250 pages long. It is a work of fiction, and it came out earlier this year in the United States and is about a future fascist United States, perhaps not so future, at war with a techno-authoritarian China. So a little bit about ourselves, so you understand how we ended up working together, an activist, an artist, and a journalist. I've been an international journalist for the last 25 years, ended up reporting from a lot of authoritarian places, including North Korea. Here I am in Cuba, and I spent many years, as some of you know, in China, and I continue to work and report at the intersection of the global rise of authoritarianism, the defense of democracies and human rights, and this is a story I worked on about Chinese exports of techno-surveillance equipment.
Well, I'm a multidisciplinary artist, and I started being known by the word because of this very cartoon that comparing Xi Jinping with Winnie the Pooh. And it's probably one of the hatest meme by the Chinese government so far. And I'm very proud of it. Here's another trying that comparing Xi Jinping with Putin and pretending to be the peacemaker. But paying attention to the bird, it is not a living bird, it's a burning bone of the dove, to showing how hypocritical and damaged they are. I'm also doing exhibitions, that I've been doing major exhibitions across Europe, in Italy, in Czech Republic, in Poland recently. And this is one of the performance art that I did, which is actually inspired by a real event that happened in 1989 in China, Tiananmen Square, when 3 art school students have the courage to fill the eggs with inks and threw to the very portrait of Mao Zedong in the Tiananmen Square. And here's another take of more like classic Western paintings that you all see. It's inspired by Francis Goer's very famous Satan Devour His Sons. But this time, the old god has been translated or modified into the face of dictators, and they're eating their own children's, peoples, and babies. And lastly, I want to show you one of the very latest work that I've done. It is a family photo of the dictators and dictator wannabe, like Trump, like Putin, like Xi Jinping, like Kim Jong-un. But it's not just an online space work. It is also taking a new life as a form of political art on the street as street art. Here is me, that I believe art has this power to challenge the authoritarian regime, but it also has this power to communicate with younger generation.
So about 5 years ago, and that's how long we've been working on this book, about 5 years ago, I started noticing that younger people didn't seem to have as much faith in democracy as older generations. I'm based in Berlin, and I'm an American, so I could see things happening in Europe and trends in the United States. Now, since then, we've had more polling and research sort of bear out some of the suspicions that I had. So this is from earlier this year, young Europeans losing faith in democracy. 1 in 5 believe that authoritarian rule might be okay, with France, Spain, and Poland at the top of that. Germany is slightly better. You have younger people with a little bit more faith in democracy, but not by much. Here's another one from Newsweek. This is looking at Gen Z Americans saying that they would support a strong leader who might ignore Congress and the courts. Another research, 1/4 of Gen Z say they don't really care about the US Constitution. Of course, these are related to American Gen Z, and this one really takes the cake. Almost half of young American Gen Z say that they would tolerate leaders who put democratic principles aside in order to fix their problems. So that is one of the reasons that I really wanted to work on a graphic novel, something that is quick to read, that would reach younger people. Because as a journalist, I do text, I do video reports, and they're going out to, frankly, the wrong set of people who already agree with me. At the same time, I was born in Hong Kong. When we started working on this book, it was 2019, 2020. we were seeing young people out in the streets. So what's really going on here? Do young people have faith in democracy, or have they lost faith in democracy?
Well, contradictory to the research that we find, as a member of Milk Tea Alliance, which is a losing organization across the Asia countries who are supporting each other among the younger teenagers who want to start a pre-democracy movement. And here's a photo from Myanmar. You all recognize Aung San Suu Kyi's photo, but I want you to pay attention to their hand gesture there. Another photo from Thailand, same hand gesture. Where does it coming from? Well, actually Hunger Games, and lately being adapted by a Hollywood film. Now, this photo is from Bolivia. I want to pay attention to this very skeleton, like a pirate symbol. The similar symbol appeared in Madagascar. And then latest Nepal magnificent protest that actually overthrew the government in only 3 days. Where does that coming from? One Piece, a Japanese manga lately being adapted by Netflix. The premise of the story is starting with the old generation of pirate, sacrifice his life, telling the younger generation of pirate that I've seen the One Piece, the true treasure, but I didn't able to get it, but it belonged to you. You, all the young generations, come and get this treasure. What is this treasure in our time? I believe it is democracy, it is freedom. Even though the reality is much harsher now, it seems like there's war happening, there's decline of democracy, there is far right rising. Even the One Piece does not existing in the reality at this moment, but it existing in the creative space, in a dream, in form of idea.
Look, life imitating art is not new. I mean, these are three, in my opinion, of the most important graphic novels. Came out decades ago. Persepolis about the Iranian Revolution, Mouse about the Holocaust, V for Vendetta made into film, a future in London that is fascist. So we understand that when we worked on this graphic novel, it wasn't something new, but it was new for me. As a journalist, I never wrote fiction. I'd never written dialogue. I knew nothing about the publishing industry. And my message today is simply that the stakes are too high not to try new things. Go out there, do something that you've never done to try to reach the next generation. We know that every generation has to fight for democracy, but every generation also has to learn the language of the next generation in order to communicate with them.
Well, in this dystopian work, we see the society being total surveillance. We see the drone powered by the AIs is monitoring everyone. And this is exactly what is happening in China at this moment, to a point that I cannot distinguish dystopian from reality anymore. If you post something online against Chinese government, you might get knocked off by the police, and next day you will disappear in the prison. And worst is this Xinjiang concentration camp that being introduced by the Chinese government. At the next stage, that we're seeing the invasion in Ukraine, but the free world doesn't really do much. We're seeing the suffer of the children in Gaza. The free world doesn't do much. Now we're also seeing that in Taiwan, it is under the threat of China's military expansion. It just acquired its third craft carriers. We might already into the World War again. It seems like everything is too late. But I want to say everything is not too late. Even though this one piece of dream of democracy and freedom does not existing in our reality or coming future, it's still existing in our imaginative space, in our idea, in our values. So join us, start the real revolution, and find our one piece, freedom.
Thank you. Fight fascism.